It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He's Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we begin a Monday, Gary, and to all of our audience, don't panic if you hear something in the background. I accidentally pulled the fire alarm.
Jeez, unbelievable.
I panicked. I couldn't find the creamer for the coffee. And I thought, well, this is the coffee alarm, right? It must be the coffee alarm. Apparently, it's not.
Well, you just panicked.
I just panicked.
You just panicked.
Well, because I needed creamer for the coffee.
I love AOC. Well, he just panicked. He just panicked. Talking about Representative Jamal Bowman, who pulled the fire alarm.
Uh-huh.
The Republicans say to delay a vote. He said he was just confused and thought the fire alarm opened the doors.
Right. Because he can't read? He can't read the words fire or alarm?
Look, we have...
I'm sure he can read.
We have dumbed down the people. Democrats especially have dumbed down the people who serve in Congress.
Uh-huh.
Maybe he doesn't know the actual difference between a door opener and a fire alarm.
I guess not.
Maybe he doesn't.
Well, do they even do the fire drills in public schools anymore?
I'm going to assume yes. Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't assume. I would assume. I would say that it's quite possible they're just looking at the kids going, look, good luck. Single file, quadruple file, we don't care.
Single file, Jerry.
Just run. Just get out.
Be like fire ants. Walk over the other fire ants
right.
if they get in your way.
Exactly.
Yes, I believe that's part of most schools today. Fire alarms, active shooter, things like that would, yes, be something that...
Part of that exercise is not just the whole single file thing and taking 4 hours to get out of a building. It's also learning about what a fire alarm looks like in the event of a fire.
Yeah, that's the thing that's not believable because any of us from the time we were kids, because fire alarms have, believe it or not, kids, fire alarms have been around for a while.
And they have the words fire and alarm right on them.
Yes. And you know not to pull it, right?
Yes.
You know not to push it, pull it, whatever it is.
I've been tempted, but I haven't done it.
You know, I haven't even seen, do we have a fire alarm here?
Yes.
Okay, I've never seen it.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it on the hallway? So I'm not going to pull it. I want to make clear.
No, it's in the women's bathroom to keep it away from the guys.
Shows how much attention I'm paying right now. The only thing I'd pay attention to is if I go by a building and it says civil defense and it has that, the sign that civil defense shelter. Like, wow, that's pretty worn.
Yeah.
Because all the signs are. I don't think there's any new civil defense.
Right.
Shelters
right.
anymore. It's like, nah, you're on your own.
Yeah.
No, they have no more fire. They have no more active shooter. Everything is hiding from the COVID virus in the schools. That's what they do. They have the COVID
Duck
alarm.
and cover your face with a mask.
So there I am sleeping last night, and I wake up. I wake up. It's like, okay, just, right in the middle. I went back to sleep again, but I woke up. I'm okay. Wonder what's on the TV. I'm just flicking through Taylor Swift. I mean, as I'm flicking through, there's Taylor Swift right there.
Yeah.
In the stands again. But I thought to myself, look. And it happened yesterday. Now, my Buffalo Bills had a big game yesterday against Miami. And Kansas City has their pop star. Take a guess who was at the Bills game, proudly promoting that he was at the Bills game. He did it a couple of years ago. OJ.
Oh, wow.
So you've got Kansas City, you've got the pop star, we got the murderer.
Yeah, double murderer. Yeah. This is a, it's, by the way, what kind of reception does he get? Because everybody knows he's there.
Yeah, he was in a box seat,
right?
So he was behind the glass.
Yeah.
I know that. That's what I was.
Did they show him on camera?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was talking on camera about. I really didn't pay attention to it. I just shook my head. I really don't care about what OJ's analysis is of the game.
Yeah, it's not about the football anymore, dude.
Right. I did see. What was it? Who was? It was a panel discussion on Norm Macdonald again, and they were talking to the guy who wrote a lot of jokes with him, whatever, and they were talking about the one. They were always trying to get silence. That's what they were trying to do. And then he talked about Norm Macdonald's stare, whether a joke worked or not. You know how he just stare into the camera and not say anything, just look. And they talked about the one that that Norm Macdonald did the one time. He goes, everybody seems to be complaining. The editorial here, op-ed piece here. It was the first Mother's Day after the murder, and O.J. didn't visit his kids. He just paused. He goes, that's because he murdered their mother. It was just so fun the way he just did it. And they talked about the flag that they were, just the flag. It was the guy, I can't think of the guy's name that wrote it with him. They did a lot of the writing stuff, and he said they were meticulous in the timing and everything to make sure they got it right. But, I mean, that's what Norm Macdonald really got known for was the O.J. jokes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But
it's also what he got fired for.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
From SNL, yeah.
Yeah. So, but, so it was so funny. Looking like, oh, man, I just go back to sleep. I went back to sleep. It's like shaking my head. It's like, I can't get away.
Well, it's, and by the way, I look forward to the Taylor Swift album in 2026. Kelsey is just another word for Satan. And it's going to be a great breakup album, I think. I think she'll probably move on.
The meme I loved the best was her song when they break up 5 years from now. I had a tight end.
Wow. They actually put that on a meme and put it out there, did they?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Keep working.
I do know for a fact, though, there are people in Kansas City that they've had enough of it.
I would think
they've had enough of the Taylor Swift. It's like, okay, this is getting to be burnout. And apparently, just from the memes, they were constantly showing her. And I guess Ryan Reynolds was with her and everything else. And it's like they could not stop doing it.
Yeah. Well, if she's there, she's the focus.
Yeah.
Forget football. You can get to a point where people are buying tickets to the stadium and then realize, oh, wow, somebody's having a football game right before the Taylor Swift event.
Is a football game now going to break out at a Taylor Swift concert?
Probably.
That would be the
what if she refuses to play at a halftime show? See, that's where it starts to break up.
Well, with her, I still have, it's like the perverted sense of awe. I'm like, I don't get it. And as you and I talked about, there are pop stars that, it's like, okay, it's not my thing, but I get it. I get what they do. I mean, if you, and I get their incredible talent, even if it's not what I, prefer. And you mentioned, Pink the other day, or you could, or even Lady Gaga. You could say that. Grandma Gaga, no, she's too old. But and unrecognizable because of her plastic surgery.
Yeah.
by the way, Grandma Gaga is Madonna for people that don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But Taylor Swift, I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either.
Just don't get it.
I don't either.
And,
but as long as she is who she is and she keeps showing up at the game, it's all going to be about her. I would think at some point you'd go, you know what? I went to a game. I went to a couple games. Let's let the team have their glory. Half of the people are going, what team? That's how bad it's going to get. Because you don't want the distraction.
Well, I mean, we got completely lost in the other news that finally the Kansas City Chiefs are going to change their name to the Swifties.
There you go. And then change it back after the divorce. Formerly known as Swifties.
Well, the one thing is there are paparazzi in, well, I guess they were in New York. Okay, that's right, because they're playing in New York. So, did the paparazzi have to go to Kansas City? Not a place where they usually.
I don't think I don't think they would be willing to do that.
We've got a great show ahead. Fire alarm. The speaker's job will be challenged. A lot of Matt Gaetz talk over the weekend.
The death of Dianne Feinstein.
That's
yeah.
You know, I was thinking about it earlier, and I'm just like, well, we already talked.
No, because it happened on Friday.
Happened after our
that
show.
And the flooding in New York.
Yeah,
two big stories on Friday, and it just the week. There's so much that happens over the weekend. It feels like it was a week ago.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
When you said that, I'm like, well, didn't we cover that?
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, my gosh, no.
Right.
It was when I woke up, I saw it. When I woke up Friday morning. Yeah, so we didn't talk about it on the show.
Yeah.
So we got a great show ahead. 866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. As the seasons change, so does truck maintenance. Cold weather can affect everything from your batteries and air brake system to tire inflation and fuel lines. Here's a maintenance tip to help make sure your rig is ready when winter comes knocking. Have your batteries tested by a certified technician. Dead batteries are one of the most common causes of winter breakdowns. Testing them now will indicate whether or not they can keep up with electrical demands of your truck this winter. When you have your batteries tested, check the alternator for sufficient amperage and voltage output as well. Find a professional technician near you to have your batteries and alternator tested today, so you'll be ready when the seasons change.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, I guess Senator Feinstein, after she passed away, Newsom announced LaFonza Butler, president of Emily's List. By the way, you can't get more further left than Emily's List. They're basically a lobby group that exists just for abortion.
Yeah.
And she is a former campaign advisor for Kamala Harris.
Right.
So,
yeah. Look, I don't know where that goes in the fall of 24, because there are a number of people that are looking to fill that seat and want to run. Adam Schiff has already announced he wants to run for that seat. I'm guessing Butler is going to want to rerun. She would have to start her campaign essentially almost immediately and announce that at some point after being seated. But they're your first two contenders, and it makes you wonder, is there any room left for Adam Schiff in this equation? Because Butler, as you mentioned, is far left. A female. This is important to the liberal left.
LGBTQ.
A woman of color, and all of this, and Adam Schiff, the old white guy. Name recognition is one thing, but Butler will have greater name recognition between now and November 2024 for those that don't know her name already. So this is likely going to end up head-to-head, or Adam Schiff just decides he's not going to run for that seat. I don't know. We'll see. And
I mean, it was common knowledge he wasn't going to pick anybody who was seriously going to run.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Why, I don't know, because I don't know. I didn't see anywhere where she has said, because it's still new, where she said, well, I'm just going to fill it. I'm not going to run.
Right. No, I could see someone like her. That's actually what I'm saying. I could see someone like her absolutely wanting to use this as leverage for a 24 run. And we'll see if that happens. And, the Senate showdown for 24 looks pretty interesting. It goes back and forth now, though, because you've got a number of seats, and this is what I think Democrats are worried about, that are vulnerable to the left. And people like a Joe Manchin, people, that and there's a few others where it could turn the tide, and the shift could go in favor of the Republicans. Now, that's applying historical standards. I don't know, by the time November of 2024 gets here, I don't know that any of those standards still apply. So we'll see. But in California, my thought is, the way the left is today, if Butler wants to run in 24, she's got a really good chance, and she would likely have the endorsement of people like a Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, I think that I believe the party itself would rather have somebody like her.
Yeah, I think so.
Than an Adam Schiff.
I think so, too.
I think they view him as being tainted because of everything that had happened.
Yep.
That he comes across as a partisan. Now, she's a partisan, you just don't know her, and she becomes the incumbent.
Right. And that's that's part of a formula for them. They love to have people who are, if you're not following along, who done that lack of name recognition means lack of baggage as far as they're concerned.
Right.
Now, for the people and in California, it's not going to, my gosh, she could tower. I would love to see the polls. She might tower over someone like an Adam Schiff.
Well, it's the same reason that you've heard so much of the talk about, well, Michelle Obama is going to run for president, Michelle Obama. Mm-hmm. And that comes from Democrats who look and say, okay, she doesn't have a history.
Right.
Now, we know what she is. We know how radically left she is. Mm-hmm. I believe she's probably more radically left than even former President Obama. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, she has no history.
Mm-hmm. No, and they love
She
that.
doesn't have to defend any vote.
Right. Right. If you're not paying attention, and we're paying attention in 2008, Barack Obama didn't have much of a history. He was the new guy.
Yep.
And they love that. They love not having baggage. I mean, the Hillary Clintons of the world are a problem for them because that baggage is so heavy these days for the left and the right.
Well, not for Dana Perino.
Yeah. And
was there any more blowback on that?
No,
one?
I didn't see any. But if you're on the left and you come back, you've got a baggage, and you come back again and again, the baggage gets worse. That's the problem. Remember, Hillary was asked by young reporters about Bill Clinton when she was running in 2016.
That. Yeah, I remember that, yes.
They had to build a wall around Hillary to guard her from those questions.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And I'm Gary McNamara along with Eric Harley.
Gary, the Dallas County Sheriff Department is asking for our help and reaching out maybe to some truck drivers about an incident that happened regarding the death of an Arlington, Texas police officer, Darren McMichael. He was killed on September 21st, the morning of September 21st. And it happened at 6:05 a.m., sometime between 6:05 and 6:10 a.m. The accident occurred on westbound I-20, just east of the St. Augustine exit. Traffic was slowing down, and Arlington police officer Darren McMichael was on his police motorcycle and bumped the back of a Ford SUV in the left lane. He was behind this SUV. That SUV slowed down pretty rapidly, and then he hit that SUV when he then fell off his motorcycle to the left onto the shoulder between the yellow stripe and the concrete center wall. This is where an unknown dark-colored vehicle ran over Officer McMichael and continued westbound on I-20 without stopping. Crime Stoppers is offering $5,000, and Oak Farms Dairy is now upping that with an additional $15,000 reward for information of the person responsible, again, for running over. And Officer McMichael was run over and later died at the hospital. They want information on this person or persons who ran over Officer McMichael here. And again, that reward went from $5,000 on the Crime Stoppers level and upped by $15,000 thanks to Oak Farms Dairy. So if you have any information, if you're a truck driver that was in that area, again, this would have been the morning of September 21st between 6:05 and 6:10 a.m. And this is I-20 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, just east of the St. Augustine exit. All right, so this was westbound I-20. If you have any information, if you saw anything at all, you can call the Dallas County Sheriff's Office at 214-749-5189. That's 214-749-5189. They're asking for any trucking companies, any truck drivers that may have been in that area that have seen anything. Officer McMichael was laid to rest last week. Again, the number is 214-749-5189 if you saw anything.
That was it was horrible what happened. The news item that had come out that his wife was behind him in traffic. Mm-hmm. She saw it.
Yeah.
As he was, I believe she works also for the police department. Mm. And they were both, I guess, heading to work, and he decided to take his motorcycle.
Right.
Just horrible. Horrible. But hopefully that helps. I know that, do you remember the one time that this goes back maybe, I'm going to guess maybe 11 or 12 years, where a guy was crossing 183 and got hit?
Yeah, right.
It was a hit and run.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because it was, this is, I don't know, probably it might have been a month after. There's a knock on my door where I look out my front door, knock on my door. I hit the camera, I look, and it's an Irving Police Department vehicle. Mm. Well, I don't live in Irving, Texas. I'm like, what in the world is this? Mm-hmm. And the guy knew who I remember he knew who I was.
Yeah.
And he came up and he said, and my old vehicle, it was the same type of vehicle they believe that hit that person at the time of the accident. Oh, okay. I remember what it was. This goes way, way back. Mm-hmm. This goes all the way back to when you and I were working in Arlington, because I had not moved yet. Mm-hmm. Or I just had moved. And that's what happened. Or I had moved a couple of months. And what happened was they saw, because they thought it was my type of vehicle, and they were looking for all of them. and they saw that where my vehicle was in the last couple of weeks there had changed its address because I went in to change the address.
Right.
But where I used to live was only a few miles from where the accident was. So they were checking out all the vehicles. And it was funny because he said, do you mind if I check out the vehicle? And it was my old vehicle. And I said, yeah, no problem at all. Well, it was my old vehicle that wasn't that old at the time. And he walks right up the front, looks, he goes, no, you're fine.
They were looking for specific damage or any evidence that it had been repaired.
Right. Exactly. And the evidence that was repaired was the fact that it would have been a clear, plastic lens over the front. It wouldn't have been. So the other one, the other side, the other one would have been worn, and this one would not have been as much. And they looked, they go, nope, you're not. And I wasn't the person. And I think they eventually found who did it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they keep looking for these things. So
Sure. Absolutely.
Any help would be great because
the person who was driving that Ford SUV, by the way, is not has no place in this. They did pull over. They stayed there on the scene. And this would be the person that was in the Ford SUV ahead of Officer McMichael. They did what you're supposed to do, and they pulled over, and they stayed there throughout. And so, you look at this, and I don't know how many. I don't know what the automobile count would be on that stretch of freeway at between 6:05 and 6:10 on a weekday morning. But it's very busy.
It's very busy.
When you talk about westbound and eastbound.
Yeah, I go over it every, I'm not at 6 o'clock. I go over it about
an hour before that.
About 20 after 5.
Yeah.
But, it builds up. It builds up really, really quickly.
Yeah, it does.
Because that's a section that goes, that's a section of Arlington, or of I-20 that goes through, Dallas, and then the suburbs, Duncanville, Grand Prairie, Arlington, all the, and that's probably, what is that? Maybe a 20 long mile stretch that's just packed.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I remember when I used to drive from Arlington to here, when our studios were in Arlington, if I left at 6 or 7 a.m., which I often did, a couple hours after the show, I mean, it was just, traffic was just, and it usually between 5:30 and 6:30, it's moving pretty quickly. It's moving very quickly. So hopefully they can get to the bottom of this and find the person responsible. And so if drivers or any trucking companies, we know we have a lot of folks that work in the front offices of trucking companies that listen to us in this area. Put the word out, please, to your drivers. Ask them if they saw anything that looked out of the ordinary on that stretch of road. Again, I-20, westbound. This was I-20 just east of the St. Augustine exit.
Yeah, and when you actually look at it, I mean, how the accident happened, slowed down, but the motorcycle hit the back of the other car and then fell onto the left-hand shoulder of the road.
Right. Yeah.
And this other guy came the left, which means he was whoever. I don't know if it was a guy. The person driving the other, what would have been the other, the dark colored sedan, was on the shoulder of the road and ran right over him.
Yeah.
And then just continued going.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully they get to the bottom of this. Hopefully they find the person responsible.
Yeah. So, that was when that happened. That hit me. It's not far from where I live, and so when, it just, you just shake your head and then you hear that the wife was right behind and saw the whole thing happen. I can't even imagine. I don't know how you get through something like that.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
No.
But we know that heading to work, wasn't at work yet, but still we talk about police officers all the time, and we've spent a lot of time over the last decade talking about police officers as the profession as a whole has been attacked unfairly and unjustifiably, as we have said, to the point of absurdity, what we got a couple of years ago. And, So you know what they go through. You know what they go through every day. It's a job I couldn't do.
Yeah, it would be tremendously stressful.
It's a job I wouldn't want to do.
Right.
I don't know.
Very few do.
Yeah. I look at that as that's a calling. Mm-hmm. Most people don't become police officers just to fill in the time between one profession and another.
Yeah, and that calling is not growing. Unfortunately, for many people, they're just not considering that line of work anymore. And you're seeing it. You're seeing the results as many of these major metro areas are struggling to find police officers, to find people who want to be police officers. It makes me more appreciative of anybody who's going to serve.
Yeah, same with me. And driving through Dallas as I do, most of it's, not all of it, lots of it on the tollway these days, but you're always seeing accidents. It's a big city. You've got millions of cars on the road. It's like, it's interesting, too, because when you live here compared to when I lived, for example, in Buffalo, which is like 1/7 of the population, that means you don't hear as many automobile accidents.
Right.
And, we come here if you're listening, not that all accidents get prime time on the TV, but they do when they're doing the traffic.
Right.
Sure. And it's just like, when I first moved here, I remember thinking, wow, there's accidents everywhere all the time. Oh, wait a minute. It's so much bigger of an area with so many more cars.
Right.
That's natural that you're going to hear that.
Right.
But it's just, I really think in this case, I don't know who knows what happened in this case. This hit and run, it just seems bizarre. But if you run over a body in a sedan, you've run over a body.
Well, I would think that person is aware.
Right.
But eventually, hopefully, they're able to find this person.
And I've just talked in general about people, driving, and it's like you look at it and we talk about the dumbed down society, and I really look at these people that are going 100, 110 miles an hour, come flying by you, and you just shake your head. You go, they must not know physics, or they're just so high or drunk that they don't care.
Yeah, it could be a number of things that with people. This is why it really frightens me. My kids all learned to drive in this major metro area. Now my grandkids are all learning to drive. I have 3 right now that are driving, 3 grandchildren. And it scares the daylights out of me. And their generation doesn't want that ultimate responsibility. They do like the freedom, but they don't. It wasn't like when I was growing up and we were in smaller towns, you saw it as freedom, your ability to get back and forth. And if you couldn't do that, you were stuck at home, And so learning to drive and being good at it was paramount. And these days, it's a learning curve, especially in major metro areas. Our area is growing so fast. There are so many vehicles in this area. So hopefully someone is able to provide some information that leads to the authorities finding the person responsible for running over Officer McMichael.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour, we'll get into, and it's something that we've talked about in general, the umbrella of what's going on in Congress, but the continuing resolution to keep the government afloat for another 45 days was passed. What may happen because of that, we will get to that, the criticism of Matt Gaetz, and more. And just reading this headline here, nearly all San Francisco restaurants vandalized in the past month. New survey. And I'm like, oh, okay, now what is that? Nearly all. What is it? 74% of respondents done a survey done by the Golden Gate Restaurant Association. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it said 74%. I got it wrong. That 74 respondents to the survey of restaurant owners inside the city, just 3% said they had not experienced vandalism or property crime in the last month.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're over. I thought I read it 74%. That's over 90%.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's massive. That's a massive amount of restaurants, and no surprise.
No surprise.
And what's being done about it? Nothing.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, 866-90 Red Eye. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Well, we don't have a partial government shutdown. We have a 45-day continuing resolution, and this week it looks like some in the House Freedom Caucus will attempt to get a vote to vote out Speaker McCarthy, as Speaker McCarthy has said, bring it on. And so, this is none of this surprises us at all. We've gone through, if there's been two people that have been consistent that there is too much debt in this country, it's us. I know. I probably have been fighting for it more. Is anybody left in the House? No, I don't think anybody's left in the House that was there in 89 when I started doing talk radio.
To be clear, 1989.
1989, yeah. yes, not 1889, yes.
Yeah.
You can't get much done if you don't have the Senate and you don't have the presidency. Mm-hmm. That's just the reality of it. Do I understand? And I'm just not going to focus in on Gates. I'll focus in on the House Freedom Caucus. Do I understand their fury? Yeah, you've heard it here for the last, since we've been together 18 years, and before that, from both of us doing our other shows at that point. When I became a talk show host in 89, one of the first things was the whole clean sweep that Republicans were involved in, where they were actually protesting the national deficit and the debt in front of congressional offices, and everybody was carrying a broom and sweeping up. Mm-hmm. And, there was actually concern way, way back then, and I think we were just over $4 trillion then. I think that's what it was at that. I don't remember, but and the problem that you have here is you have people in the House Freedom Caucus that don't trust that Republicans really wish to cut. But there's a reason why Republicans really don't wish to cut. That's because Republicans really don't wish to cut.
Yeah, right.
And I wish there was a way out. I know that the bill that they had, the initial bill that would have extended it for another 45 days, actually had cuts in. I was reading a National Review article that said Speaker McCarthy, went to the House Freedom Caucus, and they made it clear to him. This is a National Review. They made it clear to him anything the Democrats in the Senate would pass, they will not vote for. Well, if your whole goal is a shutdown for a shock, who's going to be punished in the next election for that? And it's a great question. I don't have the answer for it.
Well, and
the only answer I would have is you have no chance of having significant cuts unless you own 2024. It's not coming.
And that would be it. And it would have to be people who are like-minded with the Freedom Caucus to own that in order to, get to that level. And the point is something you and I have been saying. Until you change the hearts and minds of the rank-and-file voter, going after McCarthy's not going to get you much. It's going to get you some attention on the Sunday morning talk shows. It's going to get you some attention in the media. But the bigger fight is convincing the American people, and you don't even have to go that far, convincing rank-and-file Republican voters that we need to do something about this and we need to do it now. As conservatives, we can look at it and see it. We've been screaming for years. I can't tell you why so many on the right, so many Republican voters don't care anymore.
And when we see the polling, and the polling is the same, Republicans mirror Democrats. Well, we can balance the budget. Mm-hmm. Simply no foreign aid and stop the wasteful spending. Mm-hmm. It's completely wrong, but the polls show the majority of Republicans believe that.
Right. And it's not true.
No,
it just simply isn't.
No, it's not true. But if you don't win in 2024 big, then you have no chance of significantly cutting the budget or reducing the rate of growth, hoping that the economy catches up. But we're in a spot now, unfortunately, where the screaming should have been done 20 years ago.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is so far past the line that we crossed. And that line was crossed at the point when you had more Republicans who didn't care about it than you did Republicans who cared about it. And I don't remember when that was, but it was years ago. Look at the makeup on Capitol Hill. Oh, my gosh, how long ago was it that we did the makeup of true conservatives on Capitol Hill? It was several years ago.
Yeah.
And we found, I think, 1 1/4. And it was because...
Well, that's because some in the House Freedom Caucus were proposing an increase in the child tax credit.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the case?
Right. Exactly.
At that point?
Well, and you had over in the Senate, you had, it was Mike Lee and Marco Rubio who were leading that. They were the ones that spearheaded increasing the fully refundable amount in the child tax credit. And so we kind of shook our heads at that. Look, if you want to increase welfare, let's have the discussion.
And so, again, I don't know what games – I'm not there. I'm not inside those meetings. I don't know what kind of games are being played, even though you can see, the message that's being communicated that the House Freedom Caucus just wants to say no to everything and not do what you have to do in a republic, which is you have to eventually convince and negotiate.
Yeah.
Or negotiate and at the same time convince. But I understand when I see Chip Roy screaming, that's what we've been doing. That's what I've been doing since '89. Mm-hmm. It hasn't changed anything.
No,
and so until you get where we are right now at the point where the reality of economics hits the wants of the public right in the face, you can't do this anymore. Inflation stays. Your taxes go up.
Yep.
Everything becomes harder for you.
Yep.
And when that happens, people want, and you and I went through the polling last week from NBC, and it was like everything, that was about the government giving you money or taking care of you, the public sided with the Democrats. Anything else, crime, border, the economy, whatever, landslide numbers.
Yep.
And it's what we said. It's really still today the Ken and Ken vote. The Kevin and Ken vote that I talked about during the 2012 election. Didn't matter that everybody agreed much more with Romney than they did Obama when it came down to it. And I said this the day before the election, it'll be the Kevin and Ken vote, which are the people that say, well, the Democrats will borrow as much money and do whatever they can to take care of us now, and the public is to hell with future generations.
I want the safety net. The bank's got theirs. I want mine. I mean, It was, you can go over and over the years where and look at where that mindset really started to change, and even to the point of in 2016, 2017, we had people who said, I'm a Republican, lifelong Republican, and I think we need to take a look at single payer.
And you can look at it, and reading here from the Wall Street Journal, Mr. McCarthy had worked until the day before the shutdown deadline to pass a 45-day funding bill that included spending reductions, money for border security, and a commission on the growing federal debt. It would not have passed the Senate, but it would have given at least the House leverage in conference. The House, the GOP's rejectionists defeated everything in that bill. And that's really where you saw some of the complaints come in saying, look, this isn't a bad first start. It actually, does cut. Because that, and then they write here that left Mr. McCarthy no choice but to seek Democratic votes for a funding bill that included no GOP priorities. And you hear, okay, McCarthy's negotiating or needing the Democrats, and we shouldn't be negotiating that way. Then the opposition comes back and says, yeah, but Gates is trying to get rid of McCarthy by using the Democrats.
Right.
So you get all that in there, and it's like, okay, but what are they fighting over? What is the fight actually about? And I do believe that many in the House Freedom Caucus, did I say Freedom Caucus before? House Freedom Caucus, I do believe that they were put in there in many conservative districts where they're like, we've got to do something.
Yeah,
Somebody
sure.
needs to address this problem. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be the case until they have no choice, and then cuts will have to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's what they're saying. Okay, we're just got to get to that point where we can't do it anymore. I was reading the other day, it caught my eye for a second. I misread it, the headline. I misread what was in it, but it was like, it was a 10-year Treasury bill could pay 20%. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying, no, 20% return over 10 years.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, okay. Yeah. So they're talking about if it's averaging 4.5% interest.
Right, compounding.
Over the compounding. It was either 10 or 20 years. I forgot it was. It was like, 20%. I'm thinking 20. They're going to pay 20%?
Right.
It's like, okay, I got to get my cash together.
Mm-hmm.
Gold? What?
Yeah.
This is the Treasury bill guaranteeing 20% over that 10-year period.
Actually, I don't want to see the fate of this country in 20 years, so I'm not so sure it would be that the payoff would be there. Based on where we're going.
Just blow the money now.
Well, no, this is the attitude that a lot of people have. We joke about it, but it really stems from people calling us over and over again. In 2009, the banks got theirs, I want mine. Again, in 2016, 2017, well, maybe we need to take a look at single payer. These kind of things where and we know that's going on with Republican voters. And the reason we know it is because the majority of Republican voters aren't screaming about the national debt. They're not screaming about spending the way they used to decades ago. And it's highly unfortunate. I saw an article about people's personal spending. They're still spending, people are still spending on vacations. They're spending on personal items and everything else, and saving for a home or putting money in savings for any reason, be damned. If you don't care about that on the personal level, you likely don't on the national level.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Smart owner-operators make every single week as profitable as possible. One trip is not enough time to be considered profitable or unprofitable, and an entire month may be too much time to manage. 1 week is the right amount of time to deal with efficiently. To do so, look at the advantages and disadvantages of every day of the week. Match trip length to the optimum day of the week. Plan to deliver on the day you have the best opportunity of getting a load. Your personal weekly plan will vary depending on the weekly delivery flow cycle of your region, typical length of haul, personal requirements, and other factors. What's important is to have a specific weekly plan that helps you be successful. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And then the politics gets involved, where it's like, okay, will the Republicans expel Gates? I'm like, and the most of the articles I read indicated that the Republicans would want to expel him because of the challenge to McCarthy. But then you see they've been investigating him, the House Ethics Committee, for a while now. And the latest, I guess on the charges would be lobbying, is what they're looking at him in. For. So there's really not much to say about that. But you can't, if the House Freedom Caucus gets what they want, they close down government.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
right.
We know that 2/3 of the spending continues automatically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But as we know, it will be publicized that the Republicans shut down government. And so you attempt to come to some type of an agreement, and maybe you could get it now. Maybe you could get something. I don't know. But the fact is, if Democrats know that you're looking weak, and the public blames you for 2024, and your polling numbers go into the toilet, it gives the Democrats even a better negotiating position than what they had before.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what can be accomplished by the Freedom Caucus between now and 45 days from now. I'm not sure. I'm with you. Look, if you can get anything, if you can move in that direction and gain anything between now and then great. And that's what you hope to do each time. You make even the smallest of strides if you can gain something. But there is going to have to be, I don't know where it is. I don't know how you make people care about spending and the national debt when they're paying record inflation, over the past couple of years. And right now, it's become very unaffordable to buy a home or a car. I don't know how you make them care. I don't know how you make Republicans care that used to care. I don't know. But you don't.
Or a new generation that doesn't care as much.
Well, I was telling you about this story I saw in the Wall Street Journal. And here it is. Americans are still spending like there's no tomorrow. Concerts, trips, and designer handbags are taking priority over saving for a home or a rainy day. The Wall Street Journal, written by Rachel Wolf. If you're at that point of, well, I don't need to save for a rainy day, I'd rather have that immediate gratification, then national debt is not even on your radar. And this is true even with some Republican voters. I don't know how to change that when you look out the door and fiscally to me, there's a massive fire right there at your door. Because when we get to the point, and it feels repetitive, but we have to say it again, that you can't afford to service the interest on the national debt, then forget about this negotiation back and forth between Republicans. There's not going to be any negotiation because programs are going to be cut full on. So I don't know how you make people learn. I don't.
So good, you know you want to listen again with our podcast, available on our app and at redeyeradioshow.com.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, so when I look at this, we've been here, done this so many times as being talk show host, with these budget things and shutdowns and everything else. And we, with all the, the shutdowns in the past where Republicans were blamed for it, did we ever get to where we should be as a nation when it comes to our debt? No, it's through the roof now, and after COVID, it's absolutely through the roof with deficits 2 million, interest rates going up. And so we're closing in on probably $750, $800 billion just on the interest on the debt that we have to pay.
Yeah.
And the more debt we have to pay, the more, the more we have to, find people who wish to invest in our debt. And we don't have the Fed buying debt anymore because of extremely low interest rates.
Right.
So what do? You're in this cycle where it's just not going to end. I've always looked at it, and unfortunately, fortunately, however you wish to look at it, we are going to have to confront it, and probably sooner than we thought, with the debt, because it's through the roof. And as you've seen, we've seen the inflation now. We've seen gasoline prices go up. I'm afraid we may be in the same place where we were in the 70s, where we see inflation bad for a decade. Mm-hmm. And with the amount of debt that we have, I don't know how you solve that problem. I don't know how you solve, because the more desperate people become, because their dollar doesn't go as far, because their quality of life is horrible, the more they're going to demand from a government that has to borrow it at higher and even higher interest rates. And
we've seen that play out in recent years. 2016, Republicans were going to do away with all of Obamacare. 2017, Republicans, after they won, our constituents don't want us to do away with everything, just the stuff we pay for, just the stuff they pay for.
Yeah. Take away the mandates. Take away the costs.
Well, child tax credit expansion. When they expanded the child tax credit and were writing people checks monthly for 6 months, at the end of that, it ended in December, the polls were showing, we know we can't keep this spending up. And then it wasn't long. It was several months later, the polls showed, no, we want the federal government to spend more to give us more money.
Yep. And with the public being under the complete falsehood that the deficit and debt can be taken care of by cutting foreign aid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think the Ukraine thing they're jumping on so heavily, because they view that, even though that technically isn't when we talk about the humanitarian foreign aid, when we talk about the foreign aid in a war,
mm-hmm.
It's still foreign aid.
Mm-hmm.
and it increases the amount, but still, if you stop that and all other foreign aid, you're not going to make a dent in the deficit at all. The thing that the American public does not want to hear is that you're going to have to reform the entitlement programs in order to bring the debt under control. But as long as America puts on its blinders, including Republicans that go, let's put it out, Trump, is there any discussion in Trump on his campaign at all on massive deficit reduction?
No.
It used to be.
Yeah, no, all of it's gone.
You really don't see it at all. It's not a topic of discussion at the debates, and it's the absolute blue whale pod in the living room. And everything that we see right now, the cost of living, inflation, everything is related to what the government is doing in spending, the manipulation of our of the dollar over the last 15 years, like we have never seen in this country, to give the Fed the ability to buy our own debt. All of it's caused because we want what we want now, and how we pay for it, we don't give a damn.
We don't care. Everything's fine right now. I'm going to work. I'm coming home. The TV's still on. My phone's still on. Mm-hmm. What's there to complain about? Because, again, you look at it, and I think people, this idea, the discussion over the whole college debt thing, the college loan,
mm-hmm.
really had a lot of people thinking that, well, if we just had the political will, not only would they get rid of college loans and college debt, they'll get rid of my debt. And if not, I'll just file bankruptcy.
I mean, that's the perfect example of where we are, what the mindset is. Mm-hmm. The media wants you to focus in on only certain Republicans, mm-hmm. To use them as an example. And I know there's a lot of infighting with Republicans themselves. But the big picture is the media wants you focused in on the fighting back and forth and the anger back and forth, mm-hmm. and not where are we as a nation, debt-wise.
Right.
How much more can we take? What do we have to do to really solve the problem?
Right.
And when America is completely uninformed or ignorant on that, when they believe one thing as completely false, if you don't reform Social Security and Medicare, you're never going to get there.
Right.
You're just never going to get there. And the public doesn't want to hear that.
No.
You hear, don't touch Social Security. Well, what does that mean? Well, don't stop the benefits. All right, then taxes are going to have to go up, mm-hmm. or you're going to have to borrow a ton more money in the future
in order to pay for it,
which means the interest on the debt will continue to rise and rise and rise. And it's just we're in this cycle that's not going to end.
And we're talking about roughly a decade from now, so how bad will it be by then?
Yeah.
It was Jamie Dimon that said it recently that the Fed's going to have to get a lot more aggressive on interest rates, mm-hmm. in order to lower what's going on with inflation. I've never thought that the Fed, under current leadership, is serious about inflation. And, I saw a lot of kickback on the financial social media sites and posting that story, and some of the people were saying, well, of course, the guy that's in charge of the largest bank of the world wants interest rates to go higher. The problem with that is that it changes behavior when interest rates go higher. I'm not so sure he does. Yeah, he may make more money. You can show me the math. I may be wrong about it, but I know that on the individual end, it changes behavior.
Well, yeah.
We're seeing that already.
Right, because raising interest is that's inflation on money.
Mm-hmm.
The cost to borrow money is going up. That adds to inflation.
Yep.
And so we see it now. I mean, I'm just looking at now about how interest rates are even going up more in the mortgage markets and things are dying. That's because you can't stop economics. As things become more expensive, the incentive to buy a home is less. Therefore, people will react.
Right. Well, and I would say that, I brought up the article in the Wall Street Journal. People are still spending. Are they spending because we're on this train, it's going to crash, we might as well start drinking? So we're already on the road. I'm not going to buy a house now for sure, so might as well spend the money.
Here's the thought I've had. Even if their situation is worse, are they spending because even though they're not keeping up, they feel more secure in their jobs?
Could be.
Because of the labor situation.
It could be.
All right, we can borrow a little more because you're working, I'm working a job and a half.
It might
be.
And
even though we're in debt, let's give us these nice things, and then down the road, down the road we'll tighten the belt because
deal with it later.
Because I think about that's the one thing that's changed is if you're employed and you're you're showing up every day and you're doing a half posterior job, that may be enough to keep you in your company just because of the labor force
or just keep you in the
situation.
Workforce. I mean, exactly. If you're willing to show up, then that's about 90% of it right now. For a potential employer, if you get fired or want to jump ship, finding employment is not hard. And I think, a lot of that, some of the back and forth is, I want to work from home, I want to do this, I want to do that. But overall, the picture is we're probably stuck in low unemployment mode for a long time because we're not having babies as a society. And immigration is, if you talk about legal immigration, you're going to get pushback. It doesn't matter who floats that out there. So how do you bring more workers in? Until innovation gets to the point that it can start making up some of that workload. And by the way, I question how much of that workload it can actually make up. You need a ton of humans for true wealth expansion, true economic expansion. An economy can't grow without more humans. As more humans grow, if you look at the society where we are now and what it takes now versus what it took 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Well, now we need more and more people in the workforce. You always have, really, for the expansion of an economy. But we had more people being born after World War II, women coming into the workforce. You had a number of things along the way
Baby boom.
Yeah, huge baby boom.
Yeah.
And those are the things that fuel that. Innovation's only going to go so far. Right now, fast food's relying on it.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. We thought this might happen. It looks like that on October 9th, Robert Kennedy Jr. will announce he's running as an independent.
Okay. Look, it is, we kind of scoff at it, but there is this whole, both parties, blah, blah, blah. Now, we have an issue. We have issues with Republicans. We have issues with Democrats. But when you're running on that, the question would be then, what are you offering? And does a third-party candidate like an RFK steal from Republicans or steal from Democrats?
The old thought would be, I like how you said that,
Mhm.
because the old way of thinking is it would be purely Democrats.
Right.
You have a Republican Party that's become quite populist.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you become quite populist, and we talk about Josh Hawley and his wanting to cap credit card rates, and
Mm-hmm.
Trump talking about 10% tariffs on everything that comes into this country, which would just destroy every free trade agreement we have, including USMCA.
Yeah.
He did that.
Yeah.
Across the board. So the protectionists are well entrenched in the Republican Party than they much more than they were just even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so how many would look at a Bobby Kennedy that attempts to come up? I mean, he's as far left liberal as you could possibly imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But he's trying to portray himself as
more centered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't buy it. It's just like we thought with Adams.
Mm-hmm.
In New York.
Right.
No, he can't fight the left, and Robert Kennedy wouldn't fight the left, but he could take a couple of percentage points away. And my gut feeling is he would still take more from the Democrat than he would a Republican.
I don't know how he would erode any of Trump's base.
Yeah.
Which is different from Republicans,
Right.
but the question would be independents and Democrats. I could see him gaining some independents. I don't know how many. And I agree with you. I think that he would, because of their candidate and the fact that most of them don't want their current candidate, he might steal a few points from the left.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we're Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I'm just chuckling because, of course, just checking on the different headlines. Breaking news.
Uh-huh.
Ready for the breaking news from last night?
Sure, why not?
Travis Kelce leaves MetLife Stadium without girlfriend Taylor Swift after she brought A-list friends to watch the Kansas City Chiefs clinch a narrow victory over the New York Jets.
And then, so it begins.
And then bad blood in question marks. And then they're following them. Here, she left with these people. He left with these people.
What's wrong? I have to know what's wrong.
Oh, people really need to get a life. They really do.
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah. I'm shocked they ever left together. For her to get in anything, that he drives, ew.
And now they're already talking about the fact of her being used to get Democrat votes in 2024.
Well, why not? I mean, why not?
That's I didn't that's the whole thing, and I was looking at, and by the way, this all sort of does relate. Robert Kennedy Jr. saying he's going to run as an independent, and it's like, okay, is he going to pick one of the Forward Party or the No Labels Party?
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the No Labels Party. They still don't know what they're about. Forward Party is sort of trying to hint, in my opinion, and that's the Andrew Yang party.
Right.
Chris Novoselic from Nirvana is also on the board of the Forward Party.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, really?
All right.
Did he claim to be a libertarian at one time?
Yeah.
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 I'm going to read it from the Forward Party. Ford empowers leaders to find solutions that work in their communities. They won't dictate a rigid top-down policy platform and expect it to work for all Americans. And then if you look at it, if their flow chart, our approach, national sets principles and values. State parties set priorities. State use our principles and values to weigh in on legislation. Candidates take positions on policies. Voters choose the policies via a primary candidate who best represents them. It does sort of hint that they're claiming, and I don't believe this is what Andrew Yang's about. That's why I don't believe it, that they're talking about states ought to control most legislation. That the original mindset of the founding fathers, that states actually, there's just an umbrella government from the federal government. But then again, if Andrew Yang believed that, he wouldn't have run for president stating that he wanted to give people $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm. Basic living.
Yeah, so so who knows? But for the most part, it's still, you don't know what they really stand for. 60% of voters want a new political party, so we're going to give it to them. We don't know where we stand on any particular issue, and we refuse to take any position or side on a controversial issue.
Well, it sounds very Beto.
Yeah, I know. That's how bad it is. We're actually creating political parties that stand for nothing.
Well, the rise of political parties and by the way, that's a relative term. This is not, I don't want to imply that they're actually rising in a significant way.
No, they're not.
But the fact that they exist in a world where people don't care about the important things and care more about Taylor Swift. I don't want the blah, 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 blah. Well, then, so what, you don't want to be a political party? Well, we're not going to, okay.
Well,
When you actually stand for something, that's when you start attracting voters.
how about Taylor Swift for president? Meghan Markle, there was this story last week that she was contemplating running for Dianne Feinstein's seat.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I hope she does, and I hope she wins. Please make that happen. None of it, it's all indicative of the same thing. The mindset that, yeah, we don't care. We don't want to get involved. We don't want to, close the door, draw the curtains, turn the TV off, and live in a delusional blah, 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 blah world. It's so much easier than having to stand for something. Because, doing things is hard.
Well, I just wanted, it gave me with Robert Kennedy hinting that he's going to run as an independent. It just made me interested. I had to go to the websites of both the Forward and the No Labels Party to see if there was any indication whether they might consider him. The No Labels Party is big on the insurance policy to ensure that we don't get radicals on the left or right in there.
Well, okay.
The thing is, too, they say, we're not going to be too far right. We're not going to be too far left. We're going to be right there in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
People are idiots to suck up that BS over and over again, are they not? And they feel that when they agree with it, that not only is it virtue signaling, but they believe that I believe some believe that they are intellectually, I won't say superior, but intellectually able to understand the concept of parties that stand for nothing as something that they can promote in their virtue signaling as being better.
Well, it makes me wonder. I'm really curious how far either of these two movements or that movement in general, I think we can lump them, in the same type of category. I'm curious to see if they actually had any advertising, how many people they could attract today. Oh, I don't want to talk about this. Or I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to get engaged in this. I don't want to get engaged. We'll just do it this way.
Well,
which is the do nothing party.
Well, I mean, I always go back to Occupy Wall Street when they couldn't even get a meeting going.
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't stand for anything. The only thing that came out of Occupy Wall Street was the banks should give you a refund for your college loan.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, what about the school? They're the ones that promised you it. Yeah, but the banks are bad. Remember, they found out that didn't one of the Occupy Wall Street organizations have their money like in Wells Fargo or something?
Yeah, no, it was they said they had been telling people you need to put your money in a small bank, a community bank, and then they had their money in Wells Fargo. Well, we're shopping for a small bank. We'll mean it later. We'll have conviction later. We promise. I mean, this is where the world is today. I'll actually believe in some things. I just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, it's really incredible because politics is about issues. We all know it's about issues.
Yeah. You're going to have to choose a side. If the No Labels Party had any candidates, what would they believe in? What would they do? How would they vote on Capitol Hill? On abortion? On major issues? On spending?
Yeah, what's your view of the Constitution?
Who's the Matt Gaetz of the No Label Party? Which one of them is going to protest their own party?
I forgot. Is Joe Lieberman the No Labels Party or the Forward? I think he's the No Labels Party. I think that's
is he?
I think that's Lieberman.
All right. Yeah. Which is very Lieberman, by the way.
Well, he was Maverick adjacent.
Exactly.
So he was considered Maverick adjacent. So he's a Maverick now.
Yeah.
So a Maverick in 2023.
He was the Maverick runner-up back in the day.
So
second assistant Maverick. It's infuriating. You're drowning in a foot of water. Stand up. It's just infuriating because people will sit and they'll complain all day. But I don't want to get into it. But I don't want to get into it.
Well, I think the perfect example is when we talk about, what we're dealing with right now, what's going to happen in 45 days, whether there be a shutdown, whatever. And it's, we've done this. We know what the response is. We know that, and we've been harping on it for the longest time. But Republicans believe the same as Democrats. Talk to a Republican. Talk to any Republican who tells you, well, we can balance the budget. All we need to do is get rid of foreign aid and wasteful spending, and tell them that doesn't work. They will disagree with you all day.
Yeah.
And have no idea what the numbers are whatsoever.
Right. Yep.
They're as hardened in their position on that as Democrats are to some of the insane things that they believe.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, well, no. You can't. Oh, you don't care. The Republican Party has changed a lot over the last 20 years. It's changed a lot. It is not nearly as conservative as I would like it to be. And you see it. You see it being promoted as a conservative agenda.
Yeah.
Trump with subsidies for ethanol and proudly promoting it. Josh Hawley wanting to cap credit card rates at 18%.
You're jumping on the populist bandwagon.
Yeah. not conservative.
No.
It's leading you right in the direction that Democrats wish to take the country.
Yeah. Well, and if that's the case and independents are leaning that direction, tell me who wins.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know how you formulate. If you're talking about in districts, we could sit there and formulate an ad for conservatives in a conservative district and in a moderate district. But I don't know on a national scale how you put together an ad anymore. I don't know how you say, how you promote what we actually need to be doing and politically get away with it. I don't know how you get a win that way. Because nobody wants to hear it.
We'll talk more, 866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just reading the announcement from Robert Kennedy Jr. About, and Mediate was the first to report it, that he'll likely announce, Robert Kennedy Jr. announce his run as an independent candidate on October 9th.
Mm-hmm.
Americans are tired of being told what to do, what to think, and who to vote for, so vote for Bobby. No, I'm kidding. No. Americans are being tired of told what to do, what to think, and who to vote for, said Tony Lyons, co-chair of the American Values 2024, the super PAC supporting Kennedy and the publisher of the Kennedy Beacon. They want real choice, Lyons added. They want a free and fair primary process filled with open dialogue and fierce debates. Continued Lyons, American Values 2024 is dedicated to getting Bobby's message to the American people, and the American people are clearly ready to hear it. Americans are more independent-minded and more open to a third party than they have been in recent memory. I'll be speaking about a sea change of American politics, Bobby Kennedy said in part, and what your party and my party is in that change. A lot of Americans who had previously given up any hope of real change would ever come through the American electoral process have begun to find new hope in my candidacy. Blah, 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 blah. You haven't said anything.
No, I mean, look, you're going to have to show that you're fighting for something, that you're these are you're going to have to identify the issues, not just say people are tired of this on political parties. On the issues. Go to work. One of the things that you talked about early on in 2016 with Trump was he was identifying the problem.
Yes.
And at that time, illegal immigration was a massive problem, and it had been for years, but it was making the headlines again with a number of incidents. And there has to be an issue that you're going to campaign on. Saying, I don't want this party, I don't like that party, we're the no party. Yeah, the no goals party. What are your goals?
I still like that, though.
You know, I mean, because it's show me what you want to do, what you want to get done. What are the 5 things I need to know?
Well, I mean, with no labels and Forward Party, hey, you want to have a group of people that are trying to figure out what's going on together? I know it's going on. I don't need, but I mean, it's almost as if it's the party of the ignorant.
Yeah.
The no labels and the Forward.
Well, no, that's it.
All you people that just hate both parties. Okay, I hate both parties. Okay, I want to all sit in here. All right, we'll all sit in a room and we'll all calmly discuss what we want until we find out we're diametrically opposed on all the basic issues. Politics is about issues. So please tell me where you stand on the issues. Don't give me all this frosting. Don't tell me. I know the political parties are different. I know, because I have criticism for both political parties, more for Democrats than Republicans. But when Republicans don't act like conservatives, we'll be the first one. And we know, because we've heard it from the loyal Republicans out there when they pick a candidate and we say, that candidate is full of it here on this particular issue. They don't like it. But the fact is, that's all we care about is issues. We don't care about people.
Well, quit telling me.
Let me make this clear. We care about people. We don't care about the people in politics. We care about where they stand. We don't care about their imagery.
Well, and that's it. It's not about the people. It's about the ideas. Quit telling me what you aren't and tell me what you are.
Yeah.
You know, it's over and over again. It's about, well, we reject this and we don't want this. We're not this. Okay. You keep saying that. Now, what are you? Tell us the things you would do if elected. Tell us the things you would want to get done if the people choose you. Stand for something on the issues. What do you believe in?
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you want, if you can't listen live, overnight. There you go. All right. The vast majority of restaurants in San Francisco have been vandalized in the last month, a new survey suggests. The survey by the Golden Gate Restaurant Association found that of the 74 respondents to a survey of restaurant owners in the city, just 3% said they had not experienced vandalism or property crime in the last month. Owners are struggling with vandals defacing their property as the city sees property crime rise, the San Francisco Chronicle reported. While far from a new problem, graffiti and property crime contributes to the sense that running a small business in San Francisco feels like death by 1,000 cuts, said Hanson Lee, who is a partner in San Francisco's Lazy Susan, Humphrey, Slocum, and Horsefeather. Owners are painting over graffiti on their days off. They're crowdsourcing the best cleaning solutions on social media. They're spending thousands of dollars to clean graffiti and fix smashed windows while their margins are tighter than ever. In the last 6 months, San Francisco 311 call center received 10,000 reports of graffiti on commercial buildings and sidewalks. Wow. 3 Target stores are shutting down in the San Francisco area. The city's office market hit a record 33.9% vacancy rate in the third quarter, according to data from real estate company CBRE, reported by the Chronicle. Almost 30 million square feet is listed for lease or sublease in the city. Wow. That's been a big story the last couple of weeks, hasn't it?
It's not going to change. No. Nothing is going to be different. Politically, you're not going to come in there and have a bunch of pro-law enforcement conservatives be placed into office on the city level. That's not going to happen.
A Democratic leader in Chicago is decrying the city's response to crime, saying innocent people are being hunted down like prey. Democratic Chicago Alderman Raymond Lopez told Fox News last week that things like robbery, burglary, arson, assault, even threatening electric officials like myself do not warrant you being held on bond anymore in the state of Illinois, and criminals are taking note. They become emboldened, and the deafening cry is not heard by the politicians demanding change. They only sit back, as you saw, and try to stick to the script, even when the public refuses to participate. Lopez told Fox News that voters are noticing that when they elect socialist or ultra-progressives, they wind up with a tone-deaf leadership. Well, that would be the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Right. The Democratic Party was completely behind to fund the police.
Yep. And they're not doing anything about it in these major cities.
No. It's unfortunately it's still going on. They don't care to hear you, but they've become the party. Look, any party. How long have we said this because of the identity politics? We've said this for such a long time. I mean, early on, because we'd mentioned earlier about the fact that when we were talking about the deficit, well, we've been talking about it for a while, because I was talking about it in October of '89. It was the first major topic that I actually covered as a talk show host. Oh, all right. All right. Officially 34 years. Right now, like Monday of this week. It was Monday of the first week of October of '89. So it may not be the exact day, but
1989 to be clear.
What I say?
Yeah, you said 89.
Yes, 89.
Right.
That joke's wearing a little bit.
Not on me, it isn't.
But you look at the identity politics, and I remember covering it way back then when black conservatives were being targeted. Bork, Clarence Thomas. You think about it, the racism that if you're black and don't think the way the left wishes for you to think.
Oh, yeah.
The things that they will actually, say to you that are so incredibly racist have been going on 34 years that I've been a talk show host now.
They proudly promote where they stand on this.
And for the Republicans to let them get away with it year after year without being a consistent message, which is an easy message. We've won this. We've won this argument long time ago because it's the it's the Democrats themselves that have talked about the problem of judging people by groups and not individuals. And now critical race theory, the Democrats fully support, is based on that entire concept.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's and it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, Senator Tim Scott still gets it today. And they're very open. The left is very open about it. You can't be a conservative and be a person of color. We will come after you. And the way that they go after them is to tell everyone and try and convince people that if you're black and you're a conservative, something is wrong with you and someone else is leading you to be a conservative. That you can't think for yourself.
You don't have
you
a mind
can't
of your own.
think
Right.
differently than others. My gosh. Tell me that's not racist.
I know. To me, it's one of the most amazing developments in modern politics, the way that the Democratic Party morphed, from the 1960s as being absolute racist to actually turning it around and calling it, basically identity politics is what it began or what it became. And it's the stereotyping of groups. And it's not about individuality and autonomy. It is about judging everyone by groups. Whites think this way, so blacks must think this way. Mm-hmm. And we realize, the thing that we realize is it's been so blunt from them that they use it as an attack weapon on others.
Yeah.
Because they were the first ones to call somebody else racist. We've always wondered, why do they do that? I know I'm not a racist. I don't make my judgments based on skin color. I never have. And I've been involved in so many different businesses, whatever. It's really never come up because I don't care. All I care is in a job situation or whatever, what is our goal? We're all after the same goal. It doesn't matter.
Right.
And they don't think that way. They think that the way that you think is racist. It's like, well, how do they get to that point? Well, you realize they feel their guilt. That's why I'm convinced, that's why Democrats want reparations. They know they're racist and they feel guilty about it.
Right.
They know they practice identity politics, and down deep in their soul, they know it's wrong. And so they think, well, maybe we should pay, that would be a way to show it. Or it's just their guilt coming to the forefront because of their bigotry.
And they're not going to change the tactic politically because it's still working for them today.
Yeah.
That's how they are able to openly promote such racism, such racist ideas of saying if you're a person of color, you can't be a conservative. You can't think differently. Wow. Every time you say it out loud, it's mind-boggling, and they promote it proudly.
And then you saw how it morphed into the transgender movement. Mm-hmm. The intimidation of people.
Yeah.
The intimidation of women, the threatening of women on it. Mm-hmm. And so playing into the stereotypes is, that's, as we all know, that's what leads to, if you don't have a mindset of treating everybody by the content of their character and what comes out of their mind, means you judge somebody by their mind.
Right.
Anything else is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But it's done all the time, and the Democrats have lived on it. They've reversed it a little bit, but it's still the same thing. And the condescension towards conservative blacks is just so blatantly racist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's something they promote proudly. And we've seen it over and over again over the years. And it doesn't go away. It doesn't change. It only, in fact, they only ramp it up. You know that they're afraid if there are any conservative blacks that are getting people's attention, that are gaining any notoriety for whatever reason. Tim Scott, as we mentioned, Senator Scott is currently running for president. That's been continuing all of his career. You look at Byron Donalds, you look at the entire, and back in the day, Mia Love when she was serving.
And then you go back to when I first became a talk show host, and many of the black conservative talk show hosts, including Larry Elder, mm-hmm. who's running for president. I mean, he saw a ton of that.
Oh, yeah.
I remember Armstrong Williams. Mm-hmm. A lot of these early black conservative talk hosts were viciously attacked by the left as, in racial ways, in mm-hmm. racial terms. Mm-hmm. Not just, no, you've got it wrong, let me debate it with you, here's where you're wrong, but the label that would be thrown at them, Uncle Tom, whatever. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't enough to say we disagree with that, with that person who is a conservative, who happens to have black skin. But no, we go a step further. We'll label them basically an enabler of racism because they choose to think as an individual and not have a group mindset.
Right.
Based on physical characteristics. The left went crazy when that started happening. Mm-hmm. and they still do it today. Identity politics is, as we have said, when the question was asked because of the summer of 2020, is racism systemic in our society? Absolutely, but the opposite of where the left is telling you to find it.
Mm-hmm.
It exists in the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party has been the strongest and most powerful group for racism, slavery, and Jim Crow laws than any other entity in the history of the United States. And they still retain so much of that today in their identity politics.
Right.
And it's so blunt, and everybody knows it. And I'm just always amazed that Republicans won't tear it apart like we do. All the time we've torn it down.
Right.
And gone point by point as to what they say and what they do. And what specifically they say, and then why it's racist.
Yep, and they're proud of it. The left is proud of it.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I mean, there's more of it here, too. Innocent people being hunted like prey in Chicago. That's from a Democratic city leader. You saw that Hochul again over the weekend saying we cannot, be doing what we're doing with the migrant situation. You got more counties now, because remember, Adams said, okay, we're going to send our homeless to you. More counties now coming out against that. I mean, it's just, you think about it. And then I saw, again, all the fact of Newsom and Newsom appointing the woman from Emily's list to fill until 2024 the Feinstein seat.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Alfonso Butler. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just more coming out on him saying, well, yeah, he's good looking. As I've said, looks like Pat Riley from the 1980s, coach of the Lakers. Said, but think about it. Everything that's bad, California's first in. That was pointed out by a few people over the weekend. You name it. Homelessness, number one. Mm-hmm. Poverty, number one. People moving out, number one. Mm-hmm. Cost of living, number one. Mm-hmm. You look at all those things you'd be able to use against him, and it's like, he doesn't want to run.
No, I mean, look.
Or he may want to run, but
he doesn't see it as a problem. Right. Or any problems they have are caused by something else and not their state policy, which is ludicrous.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, 86690 Red Eye. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, surprise, 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 surprise. Merrick Garland on 60 Minutes last night.
We do not have one rule for Republicans and another rule for Democrats. We don't have one rule for foes and another for friends. We don't have one rule for the powerful and another for the powerless, for the rich or for the poor.
He wouldn't answer any questions. He just went on because he knew he could get out what he wished to get out. I think there is, I don't know whether it's I know the polling shows there is very little trust in the Department of Justice.
Yeah.
But he was pounded so hard last week, I wonder whether he said, I need a friendly audience now. I need to find a place where I don't have to answer any questions. I can just put out that we're absolutely fair, we're fair, we're fair, we're fair, we're fair, we're fair, we're fair, and any questions you ask me, I can't answer because we're fair.
Yeah, out of the sense of fairness, we're not going to answer that question about fairness.
First thing I thought when I saw that he was going to be on, I went, oh, okay, he needs the PR.
Well, and the thought that it might do him some good, who came up with that? Because it doesn't help him.
Well, I think what he's hoping for is that there are people, you're looking at the people that can't decide a week out who to vote for. I can't figure out who I'm going to vote for. Is it going to be Trump or is it going to be Biden? After all these years, I just can't make that decision. I think that's who it's for. It's not for the partisans. It's for the people who don't pay attention.
Do they care enough to even hear from him, I guess, would be the next question then. I mean, I just don't see the point of him going on. I know why he thinks that he should go on. It's his arrogance that drives him, because he can say anything that he wants, but his actions show otherwise. That this has been about weaponizing the Department of Justice under Merrick Garland, that's been ramped up. And the actions prove it.
Well, and the thing is, until he can give an answer, which he refuses to give on the Hunter Biden thing, nobody buys it.
Right.
And nobody buys the plea deal. Nobody buys what happened afterwards, when the judge rejected the plea deal, and now they're coming back again, but it's only on the gun charge and not the tax charges that could lead to the president. To sit there and say that there is no indication whatsoever. I have no idea where they're coming from. There's no indication of any favoritism whatsoever here with the debacle that happened there. You can't, nobody buys it.
No. Well, because you can't change what has happened, the actions at the Department of Justice under Merrick Garland. You can't. So he can sit there and talk till he's blue in the face.
And I think with the investigation going on in Congress, there's going to be pounding away every single day. It came out over the weekend that I forgot what TV network he was on. Was it ABC? Where Hunter Biden said in 2019, I've never taken any money from the Chinese, as he was taking that right around the time that he was taking the $250,000 from the Chinese.
Right.
So all these things come out every day, and it's drip, 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 drip. This story came out, Biden family values. Rich Lowry in National Review. President Biden is a family man in more ways than one. Joe Biden, the big guy, is the big man of the Biden clan, lending to his family a sense of protection and plenty of patronage. The family, rather than any one individual, is the best prism through which to look at the whole tawdry enterprise. The Biden brand was the business, and the Bidens, as such, were beneficiaries. And I'm glad that somebody's finally doing this. This is National Review, but I think Republicans need to do this on a much more consistent basis. Foreign entities sent $24 million sloshing around Biden accounts, including 24 shell companies between 2014 and 2019. A big Wall Street Journal report expands on how Joe Biden's power and influence were routinely invoked by his family members seeking new business, not just in the most notorious foreign deals. Joe Biden's brother James often used it as a crutch when pulling in new business. The promise of the Biden name creating riches and providing legal protection were so direct that some of the other parties to these deals thought that the assurances created actionable claims when business magic did not ensue. At times, the Journal writes, business partners were ultimately disappointed when the Biden name failed to unlock access or markets leaving a trail of legal proceedings and paperwork outlining the grievances of miffed former business associates. The profits to the Bidens, who made money even if their promises did not pan out, were dispersed widely. Representative James Comer has established that 9 Biden family members received payments from foreign deals, including a grandchild. It is telling and really in some ways all you need to know. The payments from the Romanian businessman went, as the New York Post has noted, to accounts identified only by the name Biden. The same was true of a payment from CEFC China Energy. How is it possible that, at least as Joe Biden maintained his initial denials, that he knew nothing about all of these dealings involving his family? Finally, somebody's been bringing up what we've been pounding.
Exactly.
We've been pounding on this. It had to be one thing not to know had family members been estranged from one another. But the Bidens, by all accounts, are tight. James Biden and Hunter Biden, for example, call themselves best friends. James Biden is the president's brother. And it's not as if Joe's drug-addicted son was off on his own making wild deals that no one else in the family was involved in or approved of. He was in league with Joe's non-drug-addicted brother. You could also understand, in theory, natural human reflex to try to look away from the Hunter Biden train wreck and know as little as possible. But why look away from Jimmy? That's his other brother. Mm-hmm. Indeed, there's been so much focus on Hunter with his lurid lifestyle and treasure trove of laptops. But James Biden shouldn't be forgotten. He was right there, and reportedly his consulting firm got 20 transfers from CEFC totaling nearly $1.4 million. That Joe Biden knew none of this was such a preposterous notion, it's a wonder he ever dared to try to get away with it. But a compliant press enabled him for a long time. Now the standard has shifted from did he know to did he directly benefit? Wow. This is just great stuff. Well, let's assume we learn nothing else. The answer is still, yes, of course, he benefited. Most fathers and grandfathers, when they contemplate something happening to them, worry whether their families will be taken care of. The various foreign patrons and business partners of Hunter and James contributed to achieving this important end for Joe, and without anyone needing to bother to do much work. Look at it another way. Would the ordinary father want the widow of his dear deceased son to be more financially comfortable or less? Well, Haley Biden got cuts from the Romanian business person and the Chinese companies. Or alternately, would the ordinary father worry about how his ne'er-do-well son could make ends meet? One of the first questions you'd assume any concerned father would ask is, how is he going to make a living? Well, all of this and more was covered by the family influence peddling business. Imagine if someone came to you and you had no ethics and said, I can't pay you off because that would create all sorts of problems, but I can shower your family with money. Would you say, nah, no thanks? Finally, outside of any potential direct transfers of money to Joe Biden, there's a sheer psychological benefit most people would feel about being the big guy who is the means for the rest of the family to make easy money. We have other indications of how mixed together this all was, as we just learned. Wires to Hunter Biden of more than $250,000 of Chinese money listed his father's home as the beneficiary address. Mm-hmm. Hunter complained at one point about having to support his family financially for years. On the other hand, when Hunter had flat run out of money in late 2018 and needed help making various payments and wanted to move in with his dad, James reassured him, this can work. You need a safe harbor. I can work with you, with your father alone. Wow. Everyone was in it together. It was a family business, just like the neighborhood sandwich shop or the mob-connected cement business.
Well,
but it's true. But it's true.
Something we've been saying for a long time. And when they said, when everybody else is saying, well, this is about Hunter and the rest of the family.
Right. And that's why we have stated that the corner they backed themselves into now is that Hunter Biden was corrupt. The entire family was corrupt.
Yep.
They were all using Joe to peddle, peddle influence and telling corrupt individuals all around the world that we can get our father or our brother to do these things for you. And the entire family was involved in this multi-year conspiracy that they had set up, the family set up with bank accounts and 20 LLCs, and all of this was happening, and Joe Biden had no idea that any of this was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Believable?
No.
And that's the problem that the Democrats have, and they're going to continue to have that, especially now. And I think this was really the reason a couple of weeks ago when I think Democrats started extrapolating out what the Republicans may have, and if they get the wire transfers and everything stinks. And it continues, and every single day. By the way, there's the other thing, too. The president was out talking about the fact that we need, got to stop this disinformation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really think, did the Seinfeld, when George said it, it's not really a lie if you believe it? I actually think, because the one thing that was over the weekend that I saw where he was talking to someone, he was saying that, what did he say? He got Strom Thurmond to vote for the Civil Rights Act as he was leaving Congress, as Biden was leaving Congress. And it was the most bizarre thing because he got everything wrong. He said, when I left the Senate, I was able to convince Strom Thurmond to vote for the Voting Rights Act. Thurmond died in 2003. Biden didn't leave the Senate until 2009. The Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965 before Biden was in office. Does he really believe it?
Or things are just firing off? Over and over again, we've seen this.
Because when we left the Senate, Strom Thurmond wasn't alive. And when he said he got him to pass the Voting Rights Act, that was in 1965. Biden wasn't even in public office at that point. Everything was wrong on it. There wasn't one thing in that statement that was right.
Well, and they're going to have to try and walk that back again. Karine Jean-Pierre will be challenged with doing that today.
It's just like you just shake
every single time they have to try and walk it back.
Well, they could just give that normal answer. He loves his son.
Yeah, why not?
It's nothing to do with this topic, but that's the pat answer.
Why not?
866-90-RED-I.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Drivers must always be prepared for a roadside inspection. This means drivers should always have their personal, vehicle, and company credentials organized and ready, and having any shipment paperwork such as bills of lading or hazardous materials shipment emergency response information organized and ready for the inspection official. Just an FYI, the top 2 violations written against drivers every year, as well as during Operation Road Check, are log general form and manner and log not current. Both are completely avoidable if the driver keeps the log accurate, compliant, and current at all times. Having the vehicle ready for inspection involves the driver conducting daily inspections and making sure any problems that are discovered are immediately corrected. Vehicle readiness also requires the company to make sure that the vehicle is current on all scheduled maintenance and that the maintenance schedule is adequate. This will make sure the driver is being given a sound vehicle to start with. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
It's Friday Radio. He is Eric Carney, and I'm Gary McNamara. We've been so busy. We didn't even ask each other, how was your weekend?
It was good. How was yours?
Good. Just did a ton of work around the house. That's really it. It's that time of the year. Just so didn't do anything except work around the house.
Yeah, it went by quick.
I'm trying to think if it was anything exciting, anything happened. I didn't even talk. I don't think I even talked to anybody who had anything really interesting to say.
Nope.
So, but I think anything. Nah, we're in October now, so that's the.
October is here, whether we like it or not.
Yep. Some of the news, interesting. New York Governor Hochul now wants to limit who crosses the border. Says it's too open right now. Democratic New York Governor Kathy Hochul on Sunday called on Congress to limit who crosses the border, saying it's too open right now. Wait a minute. Isn't she supposed to call for the generic immigration, whatever they call it?
Reform?
Immigration reform?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Look, up is down. They're getting flooded in New York. So she's starting to see the crack in her numbers, apparently. Her internals must not be good on this issue. Because the people in New York they're overwhelmed. Just like the border states have been for a long, long time.
Well, we want to have a limit on who can come across the border. Xenophobe!
Exactly.
By the Democrat standard.
Well, and you have to ask the question, okay, then who would you allow?
People coming from all over the world are finding their way through simply by saying they need asylum. And the majority of them seem to be ending up in the streets of New York. And that's a real problem for New York City. 125,000 newly arrived individuals, and we are being taxed. We are always so proud of the fact that New York has a Statue of Liberty. I'm getting mixed between statue and statute now.
Right.
We have the Statue of Liberty in the harbor, blah, 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 blah. But don't come.
Yeah, we don't want you here.
Unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
That's how bad it's getting.
Consider yourself canceled if you don't listen nightly. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Did you see the picture of Elon Musk with the big gun? Shooting that gun?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the other day on the border wearing the cowboy hat.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was near Eagle Pass, Texas, and was wearing the cowboy hat. Is he going to buy the border? Has anybody heard that rumor? Usually, he's only doing research on something he's going to buy or invent.
That's funny.
An all-electric fence? That's probably not going to happen.
Remember when Trump was promoting that the wall they could put solar panels on?
Oh, yeah. And I think at one point it was also sponsor huge parts of the wall.
Sponsored.
Who's going to buy that?
Acme Barbed Wire Company.
I guess. I guess. Yeah, it was, because Elon Musk lives in Texas now, primarily. You're showing your concerns over the state you live in, but of course on the national scale. Does it do anything? Does it add anything to it if Elon Musk is live streaming border crossings? I do like the idea, by the way, of live streaming it, but that would be a constant camera.
Yeah.
On all the borders.
Yeah, it's
to make people aware, and maybe he brought some awareness to it. I don't know. I don't know who's not paying attention to the border crisis right now by this time. Because if you're not, you don't care.
People complain about it, but there does not, maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe if you're inside the cities, you would really feel it. Or the cities that are experiencing it. Because remember, in New York City, Hochul said 125,000.
Mm-hmm.
At least 100,000 have nothing to do with Texas. And probably more.
Right.
I think it was 13,000 a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So the vast majority was sent by the feds.
Yep.
Up there. And you've got Kathy Hochul saying, well, you can get in for any type of amnesty, and we have to limit it. So we need to limit the amnesty. You just don't sign people and let them come in.
Right.
Well, that was the stay in Mexico policy, or stay in your home country policy that the Trump administration had the day one Biden administration took out. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Biden created the problem.
Yep.
By the way, Republicans should be much clearer on that, I think.
Yeah,
it doesn't take.
They were saying it early on, but they should be saying it every single day when we talk about the border. But it is something created by Joe Biden. And when you have Governor Hochul now screaming, hey, whoa, 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 we can't take any more. Think about this. This is in the wake of, over the summer, D.C. screaming, there's too much crime, they're murdering people in the streets, just a few short months after saying nothing's wrong here.
Well, you have Hochul saying something is wrong, and all last week, again, the administration was saying the border is secure.
Mm-hmm.
You had Representative Presley up there answering the question, how many times? 4 or 5 times from Jake Tapper?
Yeah.
Are you saying it's secure? Yes. Well, secure means this. It's secure. It's secure. So for the Democrats screaming, there's nothing that the federal government can do for you or the leader of your party because he says it's secure.
Mm-hmm.
That's the official policy of the administration.
Yep.
There is no problem. It's secure. There's a separate, completely, totally unrelated humanitarian crisis, but that's completely unrelated to the border policy at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Created by Joe Biden. And, I don't know, because Governor Hochul, saying this, I don't know what impact it has. Probably the same impact within the party, as Mayor Adams in New York City, screaming for help. And then he finally gets a response from the administration, and they send someone else, and it's not Biden.
Several critics online criticized Hochul for changing her tune since espousing New York as a sanctuary state and encouraging people to come in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
More than 125,000 migrants have since arrived in New York City since last year. Hochul recently secured a deal with the Biden administration to expedite work authorizations and delay deportations for Venezuelans seeking asylum. Hochul activated an additional 150 National Guard members last week to address the migrant crisis and to help with case management. The move increased the total number of National Guard troops dedicated to the mission in New York at 2,200. But you see here, this is the important part. Yet New York City Mayor Eric Adams, whose relationship has soured with fellow Democrat Biden by repeatedly demanding more federal assistance on the migrant crisis over the past couple of months, has said that more new waves arriving migrants are not from Venezuela, but they're from African nations, China, even Russia. Right there, though, I mean, it's Adams. You guys created this. Help us. Nope. Because they can't. But if they go to Congress, say, we need money from Congress for what's going on at the border, well, then Republicans can point right to him. So he has to pretend there's no problem.
Yeah.
And you better take care of it yourself.
Right.
And we don't care. We remember the vast majority of migrants in New York City were not sent there from Texas.
Right.
Close to 90% came from the federal government, or they made it there on their own because New York publicized themselves as a sanctuary city.
Yeah, look. We said from the beginning when sanctuary city policy was ramping up, especially during the Trump years, where do you get the money? Well, it was not about reality ever hitting. We want to, we want to talk and promote ideas in the abstract. We'll welcome everyone here. Well, everyone's here. Oh, wait, we can't afford this. And it was bound to happen. At some point, it was bound to happen. Biden is just playing the liberal playbook. But the problem is it's hit reality status. It's no longer in the abstract. And you can't just say, well, we welcome everyone here. By the way, I said it a couple of weeks ago. You got the Statue of Liberty, and in New York, they're screaming, don't bring us, you're tired and you're weak. Nope. Take them to somewhere else. Because we don't have the money, we don't have the room, we don't want them here, blah, 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 blah. Well, how dare you?
And we don't even want to admit that there's a problem. We'll say there's a humanitarian crisis, but that has nothing to do with the secure border. I mean, it's just the gaslighting.
Well, because in order to immediately fix the problem, what's the one thing they could do? Adams went to the courts to say, you need to do something about our sanctuary city policy. They have the votes to undo it.
Yeah, they would have to refuse him and say, no, you can't come here. There'd be no hotels.
Well,
there's
that's
nothing
it.
for you at that
we have
point. Yeah.
no services to provide you whatsoever.
Right. But they don't want
we're going to reverse our policy and start cooperating with federal enforcement. Right. They're not going to do that.
Well, they don't want to do that because then they'll be viewed as the ones that are, that's why they want to go to the federal government, because they're going to the federal government saying you need to pay for this because they don't want to pay for it. Because if they pay for it, they may have to cut city services. You see that 15% across the board they were talking about in New York City?
Yeah.
15% just because of this.
Right.
And now they're screaming and yelling, and the people are, the public screaming and yelling, but they can't back off because they said, come here, come here, come here. And the federal government's like, you told, even the Biden administration, your sanctuary city, you told them to come there. Now you're coming to us for help. We're not going to help you.
Right.
You said you were willing to cover the cost. And why should? If you're willing to cover the cost of it and you call yourselves officially a sanctuary city, why should you expect anybody else to pay for the so-called honor that you created for your own city.
Why in the world would you should be proud of it? You should be saying, we'll find a way to take care of them all. Oh, wait a minute. You don't really mean it.
Yeah, it's just... And then I saw another story yesterday, one of the counties, because what they said, Adams was like, okay, we're going to, if you won't take the migrants, we're going to send you our homeless. And I know one county came out and said, don't you dare do that. I didn't see the specifics of it, but I think you're going to see a lot of these rural counties in New York that, yes, are Republican and conservative, go, nope.
Right.
Take care of the problem that you created and you promoted. You said, please, 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 come here, come here, come here. And your president opened it up. Mm-hmm. And now you're complaining, yet this is what you've been calling. This isn't just about, well, if you accidentally come here. The sanctuary cities was part of the promotion of open borders that the Democrats have been pounding for the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
Now you got a president that did exactly what you wanted to be done, and now you're saying, well, no, we don't want you because it's going to be a hardship. Well, you asked for the hardship.
Yeah, this is exactly what you planned for. This is what your policy states you wanted to happen.
You know, we're adults here. Actions have consequences.
Yep.
So when you decide as a legislative branch with the support of the people of that state to put in a certain policy, when the consequences hit, don't ask somebody else to pay for it.
Don't be shocked. And certainly you provided for this in funding.
And they didn't.
Nope.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. What questions the Biden family should be asked now that the impeachment inquiry is on? I got to find that story too that talked about other witnesses that they may be looking into for public testimony coming up.
Right.
Here. I just saw that here during the show. I got to get back and read that one. Also, a COVID vaccine poll finds more than half of adults are likely to say no thanks to the booster vax.
Are we done with it? Do we believe as a society that we are that herd immunity is already here?
Yeah, I would think two things. That COVID, the severity of it, you may have difference in how transmissible it is, how contagious it is, but we've never really had a much worse COVID than the COVID previous to it. Mm-hmm. And from what I have seen, I'm sure most people have seen it, they believe that every person in America has been exposed to it.
Yeah.
Right. And for example, I never tested positive for COVID. Even when I was sick a couple times and was sure I had COVID, I never tested positive. Mm-hmm. Did I have it? Was I exposed to it? Oh, of course I was.
Yeah.
Did I have it?
I'm sure you had it at some point.
I probably had it.
Yeah.
Just a very mild form of it. So really, outside of those with immune compromised, situations, or the elderly or the obese, most people probably say no.
Right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.